What's going on, YouTube? This is your boy, the author, back at that ass again. Here's another one. Haven't made a video in a while, man, but I try to just make videos when I have something to say. You know what I'm saying? So now that I have something to say, I'm ready to make a video. And I do notice too, man, that I notice that sometimes I was thinking about my videos and I say, well, some of the videos don't have a lot of likes. But then I watch other people's videos and I'm seeing they're saying some of the same stuff I've said in my videos. You know what I'm saying? So I'm like, just because people don't like or subscribe, or comment, doesn't mean they're not lurking watching your videos. And you'll be surprised who, even though I just do this in my spare time, I'm not one of those people who depend on YouTube for currency. I got my own job. I do this, just to do this. But you'll be surprised who's still scoping your content on a low. So I peeped that. But anyway, man, back to the topic, man. I wanted to make this video about something I was thinking about, man. And I should entitle this video one of the hardest things about growing up in the black community. One of the hardest things about growing up in the black community, in my opinion, man, is that you have to act like everything's okay, even when it's not okay. You know what I'm saying? You have to act like nothing bothers you. You have to have that cool strut. I know growing up, man, don't want to show my age, but back in the day, people had that George Jefferson walk. He had to walk like he was cool, or walk like he had everything under control, like he was swimming when he walked, you know what I'm saying? Try not to let the world know that, he felt that foot up his ass. But, it's just like in general, I noticed, man, like the communication in the black homes is not really that fluent, man. Like we don't really talk about much. Like I see like when I go to white, like white folks on jobs, like other people, some other people from other races. I'll use Caucasians, for example, like the Irish and the Italian, you know, uh, non-melanated peoples, just for example, not to be on a racist tip, but just saying in general, they seem like they always like to talk and express themselves. They're very good at just talking and, hey, what's going on? What's wrong? And every day you hear them coming into work, they're always going back and forth and just talking, expressing themselves real fluently. And I feel like I'm like 39, man. I'm just now getting to a point where I feel like, I'm able to freely express myself. You know what I'm saying? That's bad. You know what I'm saying? I've been able to do it for the past few years now, but still it's kind of a late start. When you see some of these other homes, especially these middle class white homes, if you want to compare yourself to the top of the food chain as far as who's running this matrix, they talk all the time, man, even on jobs. But like in my household, like my mother just sent me a picture of I think she went to my grandfather's wife had a wedding, not a wedding, I'm sorry, my grandfather's wife had a birthday party, and they went to Cracker Barrel, and she showed me pictures of them all. And I even saw my grandfather, man. He's older, but he still looks miserable in the picture. He's not smiling or anything. I was like, yeah, I hope you're having a good time. And she was like, yeah, I wish you were up here, things of that nature. And I was thinking to myself, man, growing up, I'm like, I grew up in a household with my grandfather and my mother, and there was like a lot of arguing between the two of them. But, we didn't really have a whole lot to say in terms of meaningful conversation. I mean, when it came to poking at each other or trying to, on the low, trying to tell one this one's not doing what this one is supposed to be doing. When it comes to arguing, yeah, we can exchange words, but in terms of just sitting down and having a day-to-day talk, like, yeah, how's your day been going? Like I never really had my grandmother and grandfather. I mean, they were good people, hardworking people, and they they showed me how to work hard, and I still have that same hard work ethic to this day. But they weren't really verbal type people. Like my grandmother never sat me down and was like, or grandfather is like, how's school going, or what's going on in, excuse me, in your life. You look angry. You want to talk. You want to. What do you want to talk about? How are things going for you? How was school today? What type of activities are going on in school? How do you feel? How do you feel now about the violence in the neighborhood? Or what I'm saying? Like, just sitting down, talking, having a one-to-one. We never really did that. For the most part, my grandparents didn't really have friends. They just hung out with each other. My mother didn't really have any friends. You know what I'm saying? Everybody just kind of did their own thing. In the community was the same way. Like one time and the community was predominantly black at that time. A lot of the whites moved out. Like they had a community meeting one time about they were gonna build a school in like in a neighborhood park where kids have been playing for generations, and everybody seemed like they were upset. And at the end of the day, they said, okay, we're gonna have a meeting, and they wanted to have a neighborhood meeting to see how many people actually cared. And guess how many people showed up to the meeting? Only about 5 people, including me and my mother and 2 or 3 other people, and 2 or 3 of them were white. And it was a predominantly Hispanic and black neighborhood, and this is around the late 80s, early 90s. I'm like, and that was and white flight kind of happened around the 70s. So of course, since nobody showed up, they built the school. But my point is, it infests in the household, and then I bet you, like a lot of my friends, their parents never really sat them down. My high school friends growing up, their parents never really probably sat them down and said, hey man, how's your day? Anything you want to talk about? I mean, even light topics like school or school activities, let alone relationships, sex, and stuff like that. Like we never really verbalize stuff, but we just walk around acting like nothing's bothering us. She never talked about. Sometimes she'll talk to my grandmother about her day at work, but it never really got deep. I mean, I had to ask them about how it was growing up in the South, but it was too painful for them to talk about. But at the same time, we need to be talking to each other because, I'm gonna get that whitewash history if you don't talk to me about what's going on. You know what I'm saying? And that's the thing. We gotta put each other on and help each other. So how if we can't even verbalize and talk to each other in the household about day to day things, how are we supposed to, how are we supposed to, have a stake in this world? We talking about Black Power movement, talking about taking over. I mean, you got a few clowns out here, a few people out here trying to be, Black Power and all that. But as a whole, man, in the community, we don't even speak to each other in our own households. We antisocial like a bitch. We, my mother never really gets out. Everybody's, even in the household too. Mother stayed in one room, grandparents stayed downstairs in their room. So I'm just like, okay, I just go to my room. You know what I'm saying? It's just like everybody just a separate entity. A lot of our households aren't even together. Even though you got people staying in it, you can have three different groups staying in it, or 4 people staying in it. Doesn't mean it's a strong household. You're not communicating, you're not speaking to one another. Even in these white sitcoms, they speak to each other. Most white people with jobs, white people, they love to talk, man. Let's talk about this. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about what bothers you. Let's talk about what makes you angry. You know what I'm saying? They always talk to each other all the time. Even the ones that don't know the other ones. And that's why socially they're superior social. And the ones who are the most social tend to be the ones who have the biggest stake in the world. You know what I'm saying? They're the ones who pretty much have control ones getting these positions, you know, your congressmen, your politicians, all of them can like talk for days. You know, those social superiors are the ones who pretty much are able to run away with the world and you know, claim what's theirs. You know, people who are really good socially tend to make more money. You know what I'm saying? It all starts in the household when you're smaller, man. And I was just thinking about that today when I saw that picture with my grandpa and his wife. My grandma passed about maybe 2095, 2005. Shit. My grandma passed 2005. Wait, 95, 2005, 2015, about 22 years ago. So he went to his wife's wedding, and you know, but even you know, we never really spoke. We never really talked. Even you know, my grandfather sometimes would tell me stories about when he was growing up. You know, but it's not enough really to live off of. From you know, it's not enough for me to take and say, okay, let me take this and pass this on to somebody or whatnot, or just know for myself so I can know what's going on, so I can know what I'm facing. You know what I'm saying? Not to say that things are the same now as they were when he was growing up, but it's a veil over it now. But it's not totally going away either as far as the race issue and things of that nature, which is why you got so many kids out here confused. But yeah, I was just thinking about that, man. Socially, the black community, we don't talk, we don't speak with each other, we don't talk with each other. But for the most part, you know, when I see us go out in the streets, it's just a bunch of dirty looks. And, you know, what you looking at? You know, all this stupid shit. So I can't see how we're supposed to build as a people. We can't even socialize with our own family members for the most part, the way we should. You know, if they had stats on that, man, I mean, white families socialize probably 100 times more than we do, man. We don't really socialize. I mean, you got some black households, but most black households, they don't really socialize, man. I mean, besides arguing about money and stupid shit, I mean, real socializing, like sitting down, hey, what's going on? You know, what's going on with this? What's going on with that? How do you feel about this? How do you feel about that? You know, do you want to cry about this? Do you want to cry about that? I know it ain't always cool, and we got to make it seem like we always cool out there, but in here, let's talk about it, and then let's come up with solutions. You know what I'm saying? Right in the household. You know, I know they got these things like the Black Caucus and all that nonsense, and you say, well, all you guys do is talk, but you know that's the boule and these frat guys, you know, talking on the mainstream, and that's a small percentage of the black community. But the black community as a whole, I mean, they'll watch those guys talk, but at the same time, on average, not you know, you find very few black households that actually, you know, speak to each other, you know, on a day-to-day basis. Now, and that's in the inner city. Now, I'm not totally sure about the suburbs. Maybe they communicate more with each other. But in the inner city, man, there's not a lot of, you know, talking going on as far as, you know, a sit down or a heart to heart, unless it's an argument or a fight or some nonsense. I mean, talking day to day. Hey, man, what's going on with you? How do you feel being a black man or being a black woman and going to school every day or going out in the world? What are you seeing? Well, let me tell you this, you know, passing stuff on, passing on knowledge. You know, first, before you can go ahead and say we're going to pull together and be over another group of people or be even second or third best out there in the world, you know, we first got to be able to socialize between each other without it being a altercation or a real interaction with family members. That way we don't, you know, you could tell we ain't talking because you got a lot of females, you got a lot of dudes, kids in the house. You know, these teenagers, they hiding coke underneath their pillow, and they get, you know, cops running up in there, banging on the door and knocking the door down, and the mother didn't even know that he was selling dope. You know, you can tell when nobody talking there. Like I seen this video with I think it was when BET was showing this story about all these gangsters. They had a like a, I don't know if it was like a show they had about every week they'd show a different type of gangster, and they showed I think Frank Lucas or Nicky Barnes. They showed a lot of gangsters, man, from all over the country, especially from the 70s through the 90s. Fat Cat and all those guys, and Alpo, whatever. And I think this one guy, man, he was some gangster, I think from Cali. And he was out there with his mom, and some dude pulled a gun on him, and he shot back. He was just shooting back at this dude, and he said his mom told him, she said, the person I was shooting, I didn't even know who that was. That wasn't my son. She said, in other words, she was saying, I never even pictured you holding a gun, let alone being that fierce. I mean, you sleeping under the roof with him, and you don't even have a clue he a killer. You know, ain't no communicating going on in that household. You know what I'm saying? It's just like we gotta build. We talking about trying to, do this and do that and being number one. We gotta take it from the basics. You gotta socialize with your mom, socialize with your pop, socialize with your aunt. Sit down and have a 5-minute conversation. Some of these people, different races, they socialize under the dinner table every day, having real conversations. Just socializing, even, I mean, without arguing. I mean, just socializing, just getting your feelings out there. You building up your vocabulary. You setting yourself up for being for being someone who could really take control in the world anyway. The only blacks who really socialize like that are the nerds. It's a shame. You gotta be a straight up geek. Not to say it's bad to be smart, but it's a shame that those are the only ones who are pretty much socializing are like the nerds from the suburbs. We all should be socializing. I'm not talking about that stuff they do on the corner where you just pretending and shit like that. I mean behind the scenes with your family members, talking to them about the day-to-day struggles, the stuff you can't talk about to your boy because you think he'll laugh. The stuff you should be able to talk about to your people in your household. See, that's the problem. You got some people in your household that'll make fun of you, just like the people out on the street. I mean, your household ain't shit. You know what I'm saying? And we had a little bit of that in our household. So that's why I think the black community is getting ripped to shreds anyway, or has been ripped to shreds. But just thought I'd share that with you, man. One of the pains, one of the worst parts about growing up in the black community. But I'll make another video, probably another one tonight too, about something I've been thinking about. But yeah, until next time, man, make sure to like, subscribe, and leave a comment. And you lurkers, I know you out there. You can borrow this. You can keep borrowing the style. I see you. I see you out there. You say you not. You say you don't check us. Check out the little people, but you checking us out. I see you. I know you there. How you said in Shawshank Redemption, I know you're there. I can hear you breathing. But until later, it's your boy, the author, signing out.